hate to just keep on hammering on sin, but I think, when you say, okay, we get that it was a once for all sacrifice. Frankly, I didn't forever. I mean, I heard it. I heard some words sort of like that, but that wasn't hammered home. It was more of that. And I grew up in a church that talked about grace all the time, but grace was the opposite of works. It really didn't have. That was about it. So I think a lot of people, the concept of a one-time sacrifice for all sins, for past, present, future, that's a very new concept.
Yeah.
And but I want to stay with the question of sin one more time. You're saying that, okay, I'm a father, and something horrendous happens to my son or my daughter, and I go out and I take revenge willingly and unrepentantly, and I kill somebody. Am I still going to go to heaven if I'm a child of God?
Yes. Yes, you are. It doesn't matter how heinous the sin is. It doesn't matter how horrible the sin is. The Bible was written by murderers. Let me explain that. I mean, think about who wrote the Bible. Moses wrote most of the Old Testament, didn't he? The biggest portion of the Old Testament written by Moses. Moses killed an Egyptian. God forgave that sin. God used Moses in a powerful way. David wrote the Psalms. David killed a guy in order to get a woman. A pretty cheap murder, don't you think? A cheap reason to go out and just take somebody else's wife and murder the husband. Well, David was used, called a man after God's own heart. Paul's the author of most of the New Testament epistles. He murdered Christians. He ordered the persecution of believers, and yet he was used mightily by God to author most of the New Testament. Now, of course, if you want to misunderstand me, you can. You can twist my words. But here's the point I'm making. Of course, murder is not good. Of course, murder is wrong. Of course, murder is sin. If we're loving our neighbor, we're not murdering them at the same time. If we're loving God, then we're living from God. We're depending on Him, and the fruit of the Spirit is active in our lives. But Chip's question was this: if the sin is this big, am I forgiven? If the sin is this big, am I forgiven? And we change it. We change the level of sin in our minds. But what we have to realize is that anything that is not of faith is sin. Anything, whether it's murder or a critical spirit. And there aren't levels of sin. It's either of Christ or it's not. It's either of faith or it's not. Now the government won't see it that way. The prisons won't see it that way. The police won't see it that way. The jail won't see it that way. And in fact, our husbands and wives and friends and co-workers won't see it that way. So be ready for some horrible consequences if you choose poorly. But the question that he asked was, can any sin be too big to where I'm not forgiven? What about murder? What about this? What about that? We've got to grab a hold of a reality. Jesus died for all sins. Jesus Christ took away all sins. And He didn't get out His measuring stick and measure how big they were first. He took away the sins of the world once for all. He took away your sins. He took away my sins. And it is a radical message, and it is an incredible message, and it is a dangerous message that can be abused. But there's more to the gospel. We are meant for godly living. We're meant for upright living. But we cannot back off. We cannot back off of the message of total forgiveness.